Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening in the stars above. Today is Friday. Yay! Except that it's going to be a working weekend for me and for my husband. That's just kind of the way it goes in early September. Oh, hold on. Let me mute this in the background. It's good to see everybody out here this morning, and I hope you are all having a good day so far and that you had a good evening last night. How funny that started over again. Could have swore I muted that. Weird. All right, so it's going to be a weird day. I like that. Weird is always good. It breaks us out of the patterns, right? I could have swore I put mute and then it started all over again. Too weird. I might have hit restart or something. Hopefully you guys are seeing me. I know it's a little dark in my room this morning, and that's because it's kind of foggy out there today. And if I turn the other light on, it's too bright, blinds me. So we'll just deal with a little bit of darkness until maybe it gets a little bit brighter outside. Today we have a lot to talk about. As it's Friday, that means we're talking about not only today's energy, but Saturday and Sunday. I've taken to calling the weekend astrology as the weekend awareness report, because literally you're not going to remember everything that I say about what's going to happen over the weekend or what the transits are, but at least it's giving you an awareness of what kind of energies are at play for the weekend, because I don't come on every day to remind you, oh yeah, remember today Mars is square Saturn or whatever. So weekend awareness report is about, well, hello, Sadie, about going through the astrology, the human design, and the Pleiadian-Earth energy just as a point of an awareness. So we will get into some details, but we won't go into all of the details. Well, we go into quite a few details, let's just say that. So we'll start with Friday's report, and then I'm going to take a pause, and hopefully everybody is checked in by then, because I have 3 charts for people that wanted them yesterday that I didn't get to. One was Amy, one was Courtney, and Puffing Pixie. Emily, I think was her name. So we'll take a look at some charts, but I want to first get into what is happening today, because it's the longer of the well, it's longer because I took more time with it. Saturday actually has more going on, but we'll get to all of that as well. So let's just start with today's energy. The moon is still in Capricorn today, and it has some activity with Uranus and Mercury, both trines. So trines are the smooth flow of the energy between those planets. Uranus representing the higher mind, Mercury representing the lower mind. Not that that is a value statement, it's just that the higher mind thinks from spirit, and the lower mind is the mind that we would think of as the calculating, comparing, contrasting, analyzing mind. And then as well, the moon comes into a conjunction with Jupiter later today and a sextile to Neptune. So you kind of see there's a split in the day, right? Those trines to Uranus and Mercury bring us into thinking energy and seeing things from a higher perspective, maybe getting some ahas or some sort of revelation sort of energies going. And then later, the Neptune and Jupiter take us more into that mellow, generous, loving kind of energies, more spiritual energy, more intuitive energy as we get down to the end of the day. Now, things to watch out for today, to watch for, not to watch out for. It's not like these are bad things. Just watch for these particular kinds of energies to show up. And one is, because we have the moon in Capricorn, which is an earth sign, we have the ability for practical, organized thinking and working. So today is a day to maybe get things done in that very practical, down to earth sort of way, while we still have the moon in Capricorn, right? Tomorrow it shifts over in the afternoon into Aquarius energy, which changes the way that the whole feeling of the day is. So today is a day to get her done, get out there and finish up projects, clear off your desk, get ready for whatever it is that you want to do next. But this is a day to remain flexible, right? Though, because upsets or surprises or changes can happen at any moment. Anytime we have Uranus in the mix, that's the possibility. So if those surprises and things, yesterday I had one, right? I had one that changed the course of my day. And I just was okay, right? This is the way it's going. I'm just going to go with that flow. And it was perfect, right? It was just absolutely perfect. So remain flexible, even though upsets may happen in your schedule or in your routine. We may also want to stay in touch today with our inner guidance when we have some things that are kind of pulling us in these opposite directions. We want to stay in touch. It's an easier day to do that with a sextile to Neptune. So, if you're taking action on something, check within. Is this the right thing? Is this the correct timing? Is this the right people, right opportunity, etc.? Practice doing that. Practice checking in with yourself. Stay in touch with your inner guidance throughout the day, and you end up being set up for a smoother weekend, let's say. We may also feel pulled between the things that we feel like we want to do versus the things that we have to do, our duties and our responsibilities. We may be tugged, in that direction, and we really want to go in another direction. So we have to balance that. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn, is very much about getting things done, doing duty, due diligence, being responsible. So even though there may be other things that you want to get to that are more fun than what you have to do, get what you have to do done first. Procrastination, not your friend today. So watch overdoing as well. Don't forget there's that conjunction to Jupiter, and that also can be a point where we overdo, we overindulge, too much of a good thing is still too much, right? That kind of thing. Be generous though, and connect to things like joy and optimism, the positive thinking, that type of thing. You can be generous without overdoing it. Generosity and overdoing are not necessarily synonyms. Synonyms. So you can be generous with your time, with your money, or with whatever it is, without thinking that you have to overdo it, right? You can stay within reason. Love as much as possible today. It is one of those days where love, joy, and optimism are there just within our grasp. Take it, love it, have it, be it, right? That's this kind of day that we have today. I'm going to take a quick pause and go over and say hello, because I'm sure people have checked in by now. Good morning, J-Lo and Amy. I'm so glad you're there. Yours is the first chart that I have primed for us here in the next couple minutes. And Andy Girl, good morning. Joshua, hello. Jennifer Peachy, hello. Asa says, namaste, beautiful spirits. It's good to see you out there, Asa. And Mimi, hello. J-Lo says, hello, Astro fam. I love that little emoji with the star eyes. I love that. Deborah Johnson says, good morning, everyone. Woke up to two great horned owls doing their thing. Watched them for about a half an hour before they flew off. So blessed. Wow, that's awesome. Good morning, Ursula and Puffing Pixie. I'm glad to see you too, because yours is one of the charts that I'll be looking at. And Elisa, happy Friday to you. Pauline, hello there. She says, yes, feel the urgency to act, yet flexible. Good advice. Marcella, hello to you. And Pauline also says, came in a bit late. Did I miss the explanation of Grand Rising? Second time I heard this term. No, you came in right in time, I think, Pauline. I kind of just say, I kind of wait for a couple of minutes before I dive in. So what I dove into was the energy of the moon in Capricorn, with a trine to both Uranus and Mercury, bringing us the ability to tap into the higher mind and the lower mind. Our thinking is firing basically then on all circuits, but it is a day to get busy, to get down to earth, to be practical, to get some things done, because tomorrow the moon is going to transit out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. That'll change up the energy. As well, tomorrow is a bit of a scritchy day, one of my favorite words, that scratchy, itchy, irritation. You can't quite tell what's going on. That's going to be a little bit about tomorrow. Today in our Pleiadian-Earth energy, we have 3 remembering. And remembering energy in the Mayan calendar was Manique. And Manique was a representation of the hand. Sometimes it was represented by the deer, but it really represents the energy of remembering your true self, who you are, where you came from, and what's important in life. It is a day with the 3 energy of creativity and being inspired to expand with new ideas and into new opportunities. It is a day from the earth energy of Manique, or remembering, to be peaceful, to cooperate with one another. And it is a sensitive kind of day where we may feel other people's pain. We may feel their emotions. We may ourselves be more sensitive to things that people say or do to us or with us. So it might be a day of more crying or more tears of laughter or joy. It's just more of a sensitive day. This is also a day in remembering to remember your abundant self, that you are designed to be abundant. You are not designed for lack and scarcity. That is always something that we're afraid of, but we are designed for abundance. Find joy then in sharing of yourself, of your gifts, of your talents, of your largesse. It also kind of goes along with the energy of the moon today, with sharing of ourselves and being generous with our time and our energy, but not overindulging and overdoing it. We may also feel pulled today between two important things. One would be our independence and our freedom on one side, and on the other, the desire to be part of a family and contribute to the community or the tribe. That is always a dance with remembering energy, because we may sometimes feel pulled between what I want and what I also want over here for family and all of that. So that desire, we will have to find a way to really share of our own selves, but with the community or the tribe or the family that we are a part of. And we may also feel today like we really want to travel. That could be a bit frustrating when you realize that you really can't go very far right now. I was kind of feeling this the other day. In the morning when I turn on my computer, every time my computer goes to sleep and then wakes up, there are these beautiful pictures that come up. They're from Bing, I believe, the search engine Bing. And there was this beautiful picture of the Grand Tetons, and which, if for those of you outside of this area that we live in here, is in Montana, and they're just gorgeous, right? And I just wanted to get in my car and go to the Grand Tetons. And I went, oh, right, it's really not a good time to travel. I'm really busy. I don't have the time, etc. So I instead just followed the picture and I read up on the Grand Tetons. I just there are ways for us to travel right now without getting in the car or getting in an airplane or taking a cruise. We can't even really do all of that. And we can still find out information on places. So give in to that urge if it happens through pictures or through living vicariously through Bing. That would be something that you can do. All right, so now I'm going to take a look, see if there are any comments. Of course, I forgot I have got Asa out there, so she can bring up any comments that people are making for me if that's the need. Hello, Kimberly and Jackie and Joy Ann and Amanda J and Loanne. It's great to see all of you ladies out there as well. So now I'm going to put my coffee aside so I don't drop it on the floor. Let's go to Amy Moore's astrology chart. And Amy, from what I remember from yesterday, the sun was crossing over your ascendant, and you wanted to know what that means, I think, or what you might expect. So let's take a look at your chart. And for anybody whose chart this isn't, you can gain information about how astrology works by just listening a little bit and maybe taking your own personal chart and looking at, well, what's going on around my ascendant, right? You might have planets crossing your ascendant. You may have planets at one of the other angles. And we can always learn from each other when we look at one another's charts. So just being willing to do that. So I'm going to share my screen, which I need to get back to Zoom to do. And never mind, we're not going to do that yet, apparently. Okay, fine. Let me get our chart up first then. Have to be flexible, right? We just have to be flexible and go with the flow. There we go. Now I've got the chart up so I can see it to share. All right, now there we go. So Amy, here is your chart. And I see what it is that you are chatting about here, that the sun, here's where the sun is. It is, let's see, today the sun is sitting at 5 degrees of Virgo. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for us. There we go. That's actually a lot bigger. So it's at 5 degrees Virgo. Your ascendant is at 10 and a half, almost, well, 10 and 3/4 degrees of Virgo. And that puts the moon then in your 12th house, which is the house of sort of the secret part of yourself, the unconscious part of yourself, or maybe the subconscious, where the patterns that rule your life reside. And lest you think you do not have patterns, you do. We all do. And those patterns are often found here in the 12th house, and they're often unconscious patterns. And you can think about them as things that, when things happen in your outer world and they trigger something that's happening or trigger something for you, you have an almost automated response to each one of those things that happens. If it's a relationship issue, if it's a financial issue, a health issue, something like that, the 12th house really kind of shows us how you might respond to those kinds of things in a patterned sort of way. That means like there's almost this reactionary thing that's hidden deep within your subconscious mind. And when a planet like the sun comes through that particular house, it shines a huge light there in that pattern, or on that pattern, or in that subconscious part of who you are, or the unconscious mind, let's call it that. And so right now with the sun in that 12th house about to connect to your south node, you may get to see all of the patterns that you have been living from, and maybe on a subconscious level, which means that you're really not choosing by consciousness, you're choosing by unconsciousness. And this is a time for you to start choosing more consciously, right? So when anything in life is presenting you with a challenge, an upset, an opportunity, take a look at the patterns, because these patterns happen not only for the more negative things like, a fight or an argument, or a bill that's unexpected, or a health challenge. It also happens when you're presented with awesome opportunities to do something. You may greet them with these patterns that have been stuck in time, like a record, right, going over and over. So interrupt those patterns by stopping and breathing first before you choose to react from that old pattern. Stop and ask yourself, how do I want to show up with this? Right? Do I want to show up in the same way? Is this presenting me an opportunity to let go of an old grievance, or to entertain some forgiveness energy? Is this health challenge presenting me with an opportunity to purify my environment or my body, detoxifying my mind? So asking yourself new questions about what is happening here. Now, the South Node holds all of the memories and the experiences, your ancestral, your previous lifetimes, and everything that you have as gifts and talents. So there may be some recollection also going on for you, Amy, over these next few days, as maybe things, incidences from the past are triggered, or you remember things. Remember, if you listened to the solar plexus mutation recording from Angel Heart Radio the other night, I talked a lot about all of that memory stuff that's coming up for us because of the sun. The sun is literally in his own way triggering all of these old memories for us to come up. And I laughed because I'm like, I can't find my glasses half the time. They're on my head, or I left them on my desk, but I've walked outside, or I've left them on the patio table and come back in here. And yet things from my past I'm remembering very clearly. So that may be happening as well for you, Amy. So just being aware of that. Now, as the sun approaches the ascendant, it's almost like a new beginning, right? This happens once a year for all of us, that the sun will cross your ascendant, and it is very much like a new beginning, as the sun then begins to focus on something new. But for you, you may be starting to focus on something from the past that you need to work with in a new way, to heal with, through, or to heal through. And you already have Mercury here. So I'm betting the message has already been delivered, Amy, about what it is that you're going to be working on, what is setting the tone for the next 12 months of the sun's round through your chart. So the sun crossing your ascendant is almost as good as having a solar return, right? Your solar return doesn't happen until, what is that, 22 Aries, is it? Or is it in Pisces? Pisces. And then now, almost half a year later, you have the sun crossing your ascendant, giving you another sort of new beginning, right? So everybody, when the sun crosses your ascendant, it is sort of like the tone is set for a new 12-month round of the suns moving around your chart. But for you, Amy, it's kind of also a halfway check-in point for what happened around your birthday. So what did you decide you were going to work on for this year? What were the themes that were presented to you around your birthday? And now the sun is at a halfway point from the solar return for you. And that's unique to you. That does not happen for everybody at this particular moment. But for you, it kind of does. And it gives you the next maybe opportunity to work on what's new and what changes you had decided to make in your life and what you were going to focus on. So hopefully that's helping you and gives you some advice as to what to take care of next. And let me take a look and see if there are any other questions about that, Amy. She says, funny because I catch my automated responses as me being like my mom. And she is a Leo, and my 12th house begins in Leo. Very much, very much. So maybe you're more like your mom than you thought, right? And that can be disconcerting, right? Because often we don't want to be like our parents. I mean, that's more often than not. We see what our parents were like, we're like, not me, I'm never doing that. And it's funny because sometimes I catch myself putting my hair up in the way that my mom would wear her hair. And she wasn't even my real mother, but there's just those characteristics that carry through that I see in myself. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to be that way. So I choose to move in a different direction. It's kind of funny. But that is something that you can actually catch yourself doing right now. And is it a good thing? Because sometimes it might be. And you then maybe feel closer to your mom or more drawn in, to the reason why you might have that particular person as your mother. On the other hand, it might be then I need to choose, instead of an automated response, a conscious response, right? A conscious choice to be different. Okay. Taylor, good morning, honey. It's great to see you out there. Joyanne says, is this the day I could have an HD read? Oh gosh, Joyanne, I'm so sorry. I did open it. So let me zoom through here and see what I can do. Next, I'm going to go to Courtney, and I don't know if Courtney's out there. Yes, I see Courtney out there this morning. So Courtney, let me jump over to your chart now. And let's see what I've got here. Nidecker, right? Nidecker. Nidecker? I know you told me last time, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, Courtney, your question was that you were buying a new house, or you were looking at buying a house. I'm not sure if you're in the process or what, and you were on the lookout for Uranus surprises. So let's take a look where Uranus is in your chart. Uranus is sitting in the 7th house, which is really not a house pertaining to home or family or real estate at all. It is, let's see, he's in retrograde, so he's sitting at 10 degrees of Taurus. He's really only going to make it back to 6 degrees of Taurus, so he's not even really going to hit your natal Chiron and Sedna. But having hit that earlier this year, this may have signaled a time for you to grow up. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like, I don't mean that you were, immature, but maybe the idea of being more settled, having a more defined relationship. And part of that meaning maybe more in the traditional sense of home and family. And that usually has the sense of the house, right? Buying of the real estate, etc. So I don't sense any major surprises coming up for you, although it is sort of an auspicious time as you are at your Uranus opposition point. Your natal Uranus is at 7 degrees of Scorpio. You're transiting Uranus right now at 10 degrees of Scorpio. So you've already had the first pass, Taurus. So you've already had the first pass of Uranus over the opposition point. So that, I wonder, is what triggered you to want to buy a house or to even consider, real estate at this particular time. And then he's backward now. He'll hit, that 7 degrees. He will back up at least to that point. And maybe that will finalize that process for you. And then he will move forward. There's liberation and freedom here. But this is the 7th house, and it may also be affecting your marriage or your committed relationships or your business partnerships. So making sure that love is the foundation of everything that you do here, and know that Uranus does bring some surprises. We cannot help that, right? That is just part of what he does. Any place we get too entrenched in believing it's got to be this way or that way, he will sometimes throw out that little monkey wrench and teach us that it's different. And I just realized I probably didn't share my screen. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Now you guys can see this. Holy cow. So here's Uranus over here and your natal Uranus over here in the 1st house. So I see this more as a development, a further development of you, right? You freeing yourself maybe from old thoughts. Remember, you have quite a few planets in your 12th house as well. The 4th house of real estate is over here. The 4th house is the house of home and family and literally real estate. So right now there aren't planets here, right? This almost entire house is filled with Aquarian energy for you. And Saturn made his first foray into Aquarius in March. Remember that was like March 23rd and up until like May sometime when he turned retrograde and moved backward toward Capricorn in June. So we have him backward in Capricorn now, but it is at the winter solstice where Jupiter and Saturn both conjunct at 0 degrees Aquarius, which is literally going to be almost on top of, or a few days before, on top of your IC, which is the dividing line into that fourth house. So maybe that gives you an idea of timing when things can really start to happen. Like right now, if you're purchasing a house, that likely puts us very close to that timing for escrow to close. And it, gives you some wiggle room here. But I really see this as something that's happening and likely a sign of your maturing and growing up, if you will, in your life. And not that you've been immature or not a grown up, but it just signals I want to settle down, right? Because now I can't get up and move as easily. Move meaning relocate as easily, because now I have property and I have responsibilities here and I'm tied to the land, if you will. So I think it will be a good thing. And I think you probably should just be aware that there could be some surprises, but don't be counting on. So just don't be counting on things to happen exactly as you thought they would. Just open it up to the universe that says, I think everything that happens is in my highest and best good, right? That way it's all perfect for you. And Asa, I just saw a message. Yeah, I thank you. So yeah, sharing my screen now, you should be able to see it. So that message probably was delayed a bit. All right, so Courtney, I think it's a good thing for you. I would just remember that we do have a Mercury retrograde coming up. That will be from October 13th through November 3rd. So if you can, let's try to get contracts or anything signed before then. And we actually enter the shadow of that Mercury retrograde coming up September 23rd or 27th, September 27th. So later in September. So timing wise, maybe trying to button up contracts and etc. before that retrograde, because you know what happens when Mercury turns retrograde. And by the way, where is that little devil in your chart right now? He's over here in the 11th house. So make sure, and so is the sun. The sun in the 11th house often signals a time for us to really create from our bigger dreams, to really embrace the vision, right? And even, what's that saying? What would you do if you knew you could not fail? That's all about this 11th house with the sun and now Mercury moving through there. Envision the bigger dream, right? Envision it, embrace it, allow the universe to create that bigger dream for you, but don't get stuck in this is the way it has to be, because the universe can create situations that are even more magnificent than we ever could imagine in our own limited minds. So I love it. Okay, so good time for you, Courtney, but it's also a little bit of a qualifier here, like a little bit of a warning. Make sure that your thoughts are focused on what you want and not on the fear of things that you don't want happening, because the 11th house is sort of an equal opportunity manifesting house, and it's the universe is hearing whatever it is that you're putting out, wherever your heart and mind are aligned with, and your emotions, right? So if they're aligned with worry or anxiety, then more worrisome, anxious things can pop up in your field. But if you're aligned on the joy and the excitement and the pleasure of having something, or this dream coming true, then the universe hears that and brings more of that magic and alchemical fun to you. So be careful what it is that you're focused on. So there we go. That would be for you, Courtney. The other person was Puffing Pixie, and I remember that being Emily. And Emily, a conjunction to your North Node and Midheaven. Okay, MC. I wrote, it looks almost like a G, so I was like, wait, that would be human design. But I think I remember now that that was all about the Midheaven. And let's see if I can find you, Emily. That's not you. Emily K, wasn't it? K being your last name's initial. Okay, let's just go up to E. Pardon me while I find you here, hon. It's D. E. See, this is why I don't like it when people just give me a first name and an initial, because then I can never find you. Emily, I apologize. I don't see you here, but I'm pretty sure I did a human design chart for you. Let me go to my astro and look for you in a little bit different way. I'm going to go to E first and see if I just left it as Emily. And I know sometimes everybody likes to be, a little bit anonymous, but that doesn't help me at all. So let me go to K, because I think I remember you saying your name was Emily K. I know I didn't put you under Puffing Pixie. That would be funny, but I did not do that. There you are. Found you. Okay, so let's look at your transit chart as well, because that seems to be what everybody needs here this morning. There we go, Emily. So here we have your chart. And what Emily, let me share the chart first before I start launching into my chat. Here we go. So Emily, we see your chart here in front of us. And what your question was that the North Node is going to, very soon, transit over your midheaven. Is that correct? So the North Node for you has spent quite a bit of time in the 10th house. Remember, the North Node and the South Node, they are backing into a sign. They are moving, they're always moving in retrograde. So where everything normally runs this direction in a chart around the clock, counterclockwise, the nodes themselves move clockwise through the chart, which is considered to be in retrograde. So when they come to a new sign, as they've recently done, moving into Gemini and Sagittarius, they're backing in from the 29th degree on to the 0 degree. So for the last 18 months, the previous almost 18 months, you've had the North Node transiting through your house of career and profession and building up. Perhaps, let's see, how old are you? So, oh my gosh, you were born when I graduated from high school. That's amazing to me. So that's some 40 years ago, or close to it. It was 40, 41. You're coming also into your Uranus opposition here, I would bet, later next year or into 2022. So I think right now what you're really settling on is, where is my authority? How do I want to show up in the world? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And it's possibly as a healer, it's possibly as someone who writes about healing things. I mean, we could literally, your own natal North Node is hidden. It's in the 12th house in Virgo. That also maybe is doing some things from behind the scenes. Maybe you deal with health products, or that you're some form of maybe counselor or coach. Those would be the things that likely presented to you over the last 18 months or in the previous 16 months. So now the North Node is approaching your midheaven. So maybe you're at the end of an educational period. Maybe you're about to launch out into the world in some big way. But likely what's going to happen here as the North Node transits into the 9th house is some kind of expansion coming up. That might mean you as teacher, you as writer, publishing a book. It might be you as student, right? Taking on learning of something that it takes you more into a depth. Like, for example, having a bachelor's degree in something and deciding to take on your master's degree, that kind of thing. So it seems more education for you, or teaching that you're doing, maybe publishing a book. The 9th house is the house of publishing. Maybe it is you writing a book and also publishing it here in the next year. It could be you traveling or expanding your own things, your own consciousness into new territory, new ideas, new religious beliefs or new spiritual beliefs. It could also be you expanding into a move to another country. So interesting, because there's so many different things here. But literally the rest of the time that the North Node is transiting through Gemini, it is going to be in an expansive mode for you, while the South Node down here will be going through Sagittarius in your 3rd house, right? That is also a house of the mind. It is a house of writing, communicating, and you have a lot of planets here. You have the moon here, you have Uranus here, they're in Scorpio, and then you have Mercury and Neptune and your sun here and the galactic center here. So seems to be maybe some things coming to you that are going to solidify who you're here to be. I do see a lot of Capricorn planets moving through your 4th house. Likely there have been some changes in your home and your family, in the way that you have created your foundation. There's been a lot of focus on maybe things happening to you that created maybe some upsets in that foundation, or exposed to you were places that were unsustainable. And now you're in this process of rebuilding. So I think things are looking up here if they were down. And next step is expansion, right? Expansion. We also have Mars and Eris and Black Moon Lilith for you in the 8th house. That is a death and rebirth house, not literal death, although sometimes it might be that you're dealing with other people's, with the inheritances or the resources of other people. Changes maybe in finances that of a spouse or a significant other, but literally transformation is also afoot in your life. So, and I think it's actually a good thing for you, right? I think it maybe helps you to see clearly where it is that you really want to be in your life. All right, so let me check back on comments and see if that hit home with anybody. So Asa, I'm going to let you just go through those because I still need to go on to Saturdays and Sundays. And if I can, Paul, or who was it? Who was it that wanted me? Joanne. If possible, I will get to your human design chart. I did open up that program. So, breath, Janet, breath. Okay, so let me go back to Zoom here and see where I was. Let's talk about one other transit that is happening today, Friday, and that is Venus in a trine to Neptune. This is all about triggering our inner compassion, our empathy, love, and acceptance of ourselves, of others. I call a day like today the feel goods, because it really is a feel good sort of day. We really are wanting to be magnanimous and generous and be able to see the high side of everyone and of everything that's happening out there. It is really focusing on, because Venus rules our physical wealth and our physical resources, and our values. Neptune rules our spiritual resources. So we have this balance of, physical and spiritual resources coming into balance and harmony. And remembering then that this is also telling us, asking us a question, are you living from your values, right? Or are you sacrificing your values for the need to be loyal to something or someone? We're taking this up in the US in a very big way, right? Or have we as a community, as a nation, have we sacrificed our values to be loyal to something or someone that doesn't really deserve our loyalty? Big questions, right? And we do this all the time in our lives. We think we need to be loyal to that job or to that person or that relationship. And maybe that's true. Loyalty isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing, unless it's pulling you outside of your own values. So today we get to really evaluate that. We get to see, are we in alignment there? And if we are, then we treat it with more love and more respect. And okay, and then we take that and we make that bigger. If we're not in alignment with our values, we have to also love ourselves enough to pull ourselves back into alignment with our values. Key, right? Saturday, we are moving energy into, this is the wrong one, OMG. Here we go. Saturday's energy, moon in Capricorn. We are going to be looking at an opposition to Venus, a conjunction to Pluto, a conjunction to Saturn, and a square to Mars. And then the moon turns into the void. So we're left with the square to Mars tomorrow, and a square to Mars, you know how that is. That's irritation and conflict as our feeling nature and our action natures come into sort of conflict. They're at cross purposes to one another. The opposition to Venus is about not jumping into something that we're not sure of. Don't commit and say yes to the wrong things, because likely that puts you in a position of having to use energy that you really don't have, or that isn't really suited to you. Those conjunctions to Pluto and Saturn are going to bring up buried, suppressed, or repressed memories, emotions, grievances. And it's a great day for us to really consider forgiveness, releasing ourselves from baggage, letting a new foundation take its place, a foundation that isn't built on grievances and old emotional hurts, right? So it's really kind of like Amy's chart almost, where she's digging into those old patterns, the day. Saturday brings us, showing us those places where we may have that repression going on. The moon is void from 12:31 p.m. Pacific time to 5:37 p.m. Pacific time. So what is that? 3 p.m. to 8 p.m.-ish, 8:37 p.m. East Coast time. So a good chunk of the day, the moon is in the void. And the last aspecting planet is that square to Mars. So we may be left with irritation and conflict for a chunk of the day, or just that feeling of frustration or simmering anger, or, what I'm talking about with Mars, right? There's any number of ways that can show up. It could be things aren't working out the way you'd planned, or people are angry and, taking out their frustrations on you. Just remember, because you're listening, you're in the know that this square energy will pass, and that people sometimes get very unconscious and they project their own frustration, repression, and suppression out on us. Just remember that. After 5:37 p.m. on the West Coast, the moon will move into Aquarius. That changes up the energy and sets the tone for most of Sunday to be a little more social, a little less emotional. We can be a little more aloof and we can stand back a little bit. But before I launch into Sunday, let's talk about Mercury in a trine to Jupiter on Saturday as well. Now, this may be the best balance ever to the more icky feeling energies that the moon might bring us, the scritchy energies on Saturday. And that's because the Mercury trine Jupiter aspect brings us more faith, more optimism, and we get more faith in our own ability, in what we're doing is right, and our ability to think and speak and be clear is boosted a bit. It uplifts our mood. It makes us feel, it's a feel good kind of transit. We may hear good news that day. We may hear something that just makes us, there may be good news out in the outer world, and maybe that affects us in some way. Wouldn't that be awesome? I think it's time. But something may happen. You may, hear maybe a conversation that you have with somebody that brings you a new idea that somehow changes your viewpoint, or in some way empowers you or uplifts you. And maybe you become that force for someone else in their lives. So it is the balancing point. That is a pretty feel good energy for the day. But there are still those opportunities for that conflict, or those repressed feelings and emotions to come up to the surface. So we be just watching for that, and also monitoring our reactions, right? Instead of reacting, we can respond to whatever it is that life presents us with tomorrow. The Pleiadian-Earth energy for tomorrow is for loving energy. That also feeds into that Mercury trine Jupiter feeling good energy. Loving energy was Lamont in the Mayan calendar. It represented Venus. Venus as the star that was of most importance. The Mayan calendar and even the Pleiadian calendar does not pay much attention to the moon as much as it does to Venus, right? We are aware that the moon is changing phases because we see it, we can connect to it visually. But in reality, Pleiadians and the Mayans use Venus more because it really reflects what's happening in society. And loving energy is about where we embrace this idea of loving one another more fully. But unfortunately, it's often preceded by conflict or something coming up from deep within, either you or someone else, that is not loving, so that we can then learn to apply love to that situation. So it's kind of a mixed bag of an energy, but overall it's wanting love, right? It's a call for more love, applying more love to the situation, to the person, etc. All right. Tomorrow, we also change our human design week. We move the sun into the gate 40, which is on the ego center or the heart center. And we move the earth into the gate 37, which is on the emotional center. So we have a bit of emotion going on here. And I want to share a graphic with you that Asa is actually going to post for me on Instagram, I think, later. So you guys will get to see this a little bit sooner than other people. So let me bring that up real quick so you can see what the 4037 might mean for us. Where do I have that? It's on my desktop. And it is HD week. There we go. And let me share my screen so you can see this. Those of you who are in the membership, you saw this on Tuesday when we did our September What's Up in the Stars webinar. So here we are. We're coming into week 1 of September, right? In human design, it doesn't work. Again, it works like the Pleiadian calendar. It doesn't come in on the first of the month. So our week 1 of September begins August 29th and runs through September 2nd. And it is a week about community. And in human design, we often call this a part seeking a whole. And that's because the gate 40, which is over here, I don't have that screen up, but gate 40 on the heart center is a gate of aloneness, right? It is where we need to spend that time alone. But while we're alone, we're often wanting to be a part of a tribe or a community. So we're kind of torn between our own individuality, who we are, and who we are in the midst of a group. Sounds like a dilemma, right? So the relationship bargain here, because this is the channel of bargains, it's also called the channel of marriage. It's called the channel of community, is about communicating your needs to the group and the group communicating its needs, then deciding if there's a match. If there is, then we participate. If there is not, then we go back to alone, right? No big deal here. The shadow energy. So I bring up the gene keys as well here, because in the shadow, this gate can create exhaustion as you're constantly trying to do your own thing plus do the group thing, and you're going, pushing yourself maybe into things. The gift is resolve. I love that, resolve, that word that really just says, I'm deciding, right? It's my decision that this. And then in the Siddhi, it is divine will. Maybe the resolve here is about, I resolve to follow the impulse of of divinity, right? Following divine will. Thy will be done. And when that happens, then we often feel a little bit released. We feel like a burden taken off our shoulders. We release that ego connection, and we're just going, okay, well, this is divine will. I'm going with divine will. I'm not going to push myself into something, into being something I'm not. And which then creates exhaustion on that will center. And it's a center that in human design is one we think of as pulsing on and pulsing off. And I always equate that particular center with the energy of animals, the dog, right? For example, who will play, and then they just drop, right? They rest, or they go pick up a bite of food or some water, and then they maybe take a nap, and then they come back at it and they're play. It's about the natural cycle of energy and how it goes from rest to action to rest to action. But humans have, sort of perfected the idea, the art of productivity, and we are always in the action part, and we burn out consequently. So watching for the next week about burning out. Where are you pushing yourself too far? The Earth at gate 37 is a gate of harmony. I could have called this gate any number of things. In human design, it's called harmony. We could call it the gate of equality. It's blah, blah, blah. We could call it the gate of weakness. There are so many different things that we could call it. But what it reminds me personally of is that a community is only as strong as the members it is made up of. So if you're a family, a tribe, a community, a country, a global entity, the strength, the relative strength of that is only as good as the weakest members of that, right? So we are so at cross purposes sometimes when we think about, taking money away from children's services or from the elderly or from the ill people. We take money out of those funds and we move it to other things, or whatever is needing more attention. And we forget that when we strengthen those people or those groups, that we're in essence strengthening the whole, right? Because a community or a family can't be very strong if you're not taking care of its weakest members. So we have the shadow of weakness that shows up here. And often that has been a place in history where the divine feminine or the feminine energy has been assumed to be weak. And here in the gift equality is the feminine bringing back her power and resuming her equal status with the masculine, her strength is different than the masculine, as the masculine is different than the feminine, but they are not meant to be the same, right? They're different, and not one is weaker than the other. Weakness here has been that we were the weaker sex, if you will, because we weren't as muscular or strong. We're smaller in stature, and that gave the masculine the feeling of more power, and that energy is upside down, right? It's not the honoring of both of those energies. It's really not honoring that. So we have an opportunity in this week to balance energies and to greet even the most aggressive people with a tenderness as we seek to create peace and harmony. So that is our energy for the week. On Monday, I think I'll read the story for that because I've got more to talk about here and we're already close to 9. So I'm going to stop sharing that now. Checking in with the roll here, see how people are thinking. Ursula says, thanks for mentioning the book Chiron and the Healing Journey. Oh yeah, I love that. Opened it last night. It's powerful and deep. It is indeed. I think I bought it probably around that same time, maybe even earlier. Whenever Chiron busted out into my awareness, which was probably back in 2006, 2007. I don't remember when it was written, but I got it right after. And it was just, it's an amazing book. Deep though. So take your time with it, Ursula. Pauline, explain the dragonfly, please. I'm not going to explain the dragonfly, but it is the symbol of the evolution, Gene Key 55. So Pauline, feel free to go get your Gene Keys book and read the story of the dragonfly because it perfectly embodies the energy of the evolution that's happening in the Gene Key 55 or the Gate 55. Joy Ann says, I have a daydream of cross-generational learning elders' homes like in the movie The Quartet. Ooh, maybe that's something you can bring into the into reality, right? That's a great one. And Puffing Pixie, thank you, Emily, for reminding everybody to hit the like button and to subscribe if you haven't yet done that. If you want notifications, the little bell there will help you do that. I appreciate that. And let's see, let's go into Sunday really quickly, and then hopefully I'll have some time for Joyanne to look at her chart. Sunday. It is also a big day. The moon has transited into Aquarius. We only have one aspect that day, and that happens to be a biggie. It's a square to Uranus. As the moon in Aquarius, the sign Uranus rules or co-rules with Saturn, is triggered or challenged by that square. So that means we may have some surprises or some upsets that we're dealing with. Your best bet with Aquarius energy is to stand back, be more objective, try not to get into the emotion of whatever it is that has triggered you, and to be as aloof as possible. Detachment is your key for Sunday, not getting drawn into the drama or the trauma or the emotional ups or downs of anything, right? Just being able to stand back a bit. Now we have two big transits besides the moon moving into Aquarius, and that is Venus opposing Pluto and oppositions. They're always pitting two things against each other, right? They're seeking balance, right? We have to come into a balance. So think of a teeter-totter, right? You've got one person on this end, one person on this end. When you raise your feet up, you're teeter-tottering, right? And you're kind of pulling in opposite of each other. But if you put your feet down, then everything is in balance, right? The whole thing stops. So that's kind of an opposition. How do we bring the two energies into some form of balance? Venus represents our values and our relationships and our money. Pluto represents those very deep transformative energies. So here we may have to realize that we can't always have things the exact way that we want them. And that may be the problem right now. We want it to be this way, and it's not. So we have to release, right? We have to recognize that sometimes those blocks that get thrown into our way are there for us to take the time to rethink our approach, perhaps, to rethink what is the opportunity that we're really after. What is it we really do want? We think we want one thing, but maybe we really want another thing. So expect that maybe there will be some jostling between the desire nature, how you want your relationships to go, what you want the day to look like versus Pluto's idea, which is always going to be completely different, perhaps, than what Venus's idea might be. It doesn't mean it's a bad one, right? You may have to delay making big decisions, though, on Sunday, just because that energy is a little bit disconcerting, but not necessarily bad, right? If this is bringing it into harmony, making sure that you're not going to do something in a headstrong way. I mean, that's basically like tempting Pluto to put the block in your way. So being open to divine will, remember, divine will, that's our human design energy for the week. So that's going to show up maybe on Sunday in some way for us. We also have Mercury opposing Neptune. Mercury, again, is the sign of communication of the mind. Neptune sometimes takes us into that hard to see territory, the fog, right? Or the illusion, right? Those mirages where you see those wavy heat lines and you can't see clearly. You think you see water and you get there and it's not there, it's further away. And it never was water in the first place because it was just heat waves. So we may be a little bit befuddled, if you will, on Sunday, where we can't quite get our thoughts lined up. When you think you've got it, it's gone, right? It vanishes. The ideas that you had, or the plan that you had. So we're just going to have to be willing to go with the flow on Sunday. It's happening to everybody. It isn't just going to be you, right? Everybody's a little bit crazed and befuddled and not seeing clear. So it really does also go into delaying maybe some key things until the next day. Maybe it's a better day to just relax. Maybe it's a day to sit back and watch a good movie, or lay out on the beach, or do something fun. Maybe not try to do any work, maybe not try to make things happen. Just following the path that seems to be opening up for you. Sunday in the Pleiadian energy is 5. um, feeling. Feeling energy was Muluk in the Mayan calendar. It was the representation of emotions. So Sunday is an emotional day. 5 is the number of movement. And that means changing moods, right? There may be these changing faces of that people have, or that you have, right? You're up one minute, maybe down the next, and up again, and in between. And so your feeling nature is really triggered on Sunday, the emotional nature, giving it a bit of a moody feel. All right, so that's Sunday for us. That's a lot. That is being aware. Remember, I just said in the very beginning that I've changed the name of the weekend astrology report to the weekend awareness report, because there's no way that I even remember every little thing that's happening. But if we have an awareness of these things, then we can be, oh yeah, that's why this is so irritating to me today. So being aware of what's going on for the weekend. Now, Joy Ann, I'm going to see if I can bring up your human design chart. I do believe I have it. And in the meantime, I need you to tell me what it is you would like to know, because I have very few minutes here to focus on that. So maybe have Asa let me know. Yeah, okay, so I don't see it. Well, I'll just give you a generalized thing until maybe Asa can tell me what it is you really want to know about your human design. Let's just take a look, for example, for the moment, as we, move into the new week. Hold on, we have to share the screen in order for you to see that. Why am I forgetting that this morning? That's just crazy. Since I think I'm sharing, right? You can't just see from my mind, right? So here is Joy Ann's human design chart. You are a generator with sacral expressed generated authority, which means that the sacral in the moment of response has an answer. It's a yes or a no, or an uh-huh or an right? You're a sound almost generated responder. And that means that when an opportunity is posed to you, right? Something comes up in the outer world for you to respond to, a person, an opportunity, something like that, a job. There is a sound almost that is made from the sacral. It might be uh-huh, literally yes, no. So it depends on how you personally deal with that, but your sacral expresses in the moment. It's very similar to intuition, but it's not coming from the intuitive knowingness. It is coming from a very powerful body response, almost a tug forward or a push away feeling. And that's how you know whether you're responding to something is right or wrong for you, correct or incorrect for you, because your body is saying, yes, more of that, or no, get away, right? So listening to your body, very important. Now, if we look at what is happening for you over the course of this week, we're going to see that, let's make this black, that right here, this entire channel that you normally do not have is going to be defined for you. For everybody, by the way, who has an open 4037, it is going to be defined in the upcoming week. So from tomorrow, Saturday, through the 2nd of September, which is next Wednesday. So for the time being, you may be grappling with, how much do I want to get involved with the community? How much time do I need alone? What do I want to give of myself? What do I need to receive? And balancing the agreements that you've made. This is part of tribal energy and is also a channel that is shifting as we are morphing more to the emotional center. The gate literally is changing. So from 37s seeking harmony, and the wave that is sometimes up and down, to more of an equal wave. So it's interesting that this is triggered right now, as a lot of people, a lot of human design people also out there talking about the solar plexus mutation now, almost like is on cue. This subject has come up, right? It's just so weird. And but in a good way, weird in a good way, that suddenly we're focusing on this. And then along comes a week where that particular channel, which is a part of the last 400 and some years of our evolution, where we focused on community, is being triggered. So looking at what does community mean to you, Joyanne? Where are you really called to be? And who do you want to be with? Who do you want to do that with? And where there greater pressure with current transits, right? So those transits are and suddenly then, Joyanne, that defines your heart center and it defines your emotional center. So you may become more emotional over the next week. You may become more willful over the next week, or feel like you're in some kind of mad competition to get where you want to go. You'll suddenly have these two centers. Everyone will have these two centers defined suddenly. So that's a temptation almost to be something that you're not, right? Do not try to push yourself into a group or push yourself into being something in a community that you don't want to be, but also don't withdraw so much, right? You have to seek the balance, the equality, the harmony in expressing this community tribal energy. So that may be a little bit of a challenge because those centers are usually open. So you're typically empathic and you're feeling other people's emotions. The need for you is to allow that to flow through you. Now, suddenly you may be broadcasting emotion. And if you're doing that, you're also in the wrong place. You have to go back and go, okay, wait a minute. Whose emotion am I feeling? Right? What am I into here? And allow it to just flow through you, informing you of what's going on. Same thing here with the heart center. My worry for some people during this period of time is that this center can be a source of anxiety, right? Anxiety as we feel like we have to do more. We feel like that we're somehow falling behind everybody else, that we have to be more willful and determined and endure and persevere. So we keep doing and doing and going and going. And for you, you do have the defined sacral. So you have sustainable life force energy. But now this center suddenly becoming defined over the next week, you may find yourself enduring beyond your limits, pushing instead of allowing. And if you find yourself doing that, the wisdom would be stop what you're doing and go back to resting, right? Balancing rest and work, work and rest, right? Balancing them back and forth, taking a break, making sure you see to your needs, right? That you're eating, that you're drinking, that you're going to the bathroom when you need to, that you're not just keeping on, because suddenly you're going to have three motors defined and not just the one that you typically have defined. And you'll still have that open root center, which isn't likely going to change your to-do list, right? Sometimes those open root centers have very long to-do lists. They're working to get free for the day, but they never quite get there because they just keep adding to the list. So drop the list, dump it in the shredder, dump it in the trash, flush it down the toilet, dump the list, be a little bit more free, Remember that you're a human being, not a human doing, and watch what it is you might be tempted to push yourself into, or withdraw from in the wrong way as well. So that's an equal kind of thing that happens there. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, Joanne, to understand. I'm checking to see, forum was last week for members. So Pauline, you can go into the Facebook group, or you can go into the membership platform and you can get the recording of forum. That's always the third Friday of the month. And then we go to the webinar on the fourth Tuesday of the month. So that's there. Email me privately if you need to, and I can send you the link to that if you need to know, if you can't find that. Okay. All righty. Well, that is it for me today. I hope you all have a spectacular weekend. Remember, just go with the flow, right? Be aware that there's some ups and downs possible, but there's also some really beautiful energy. It's all about love. If you make it about love, it makes it a whole lot easier. All right, everybody, take care. Much love.